course, the browser UIs for SSL certificates aren't necessarily beautiful. So there's some work to be done.
All right. Thank you.
Next question.
This will make it a lot easier for sites to use SSL, I think. Once everyone's using SSL, how are hotel networks going to man in the middle me and show me a captive portal and make me agree to terms of service before I can check my email?
Oh. That's an absolutely great question.
They'll have to come up with more creative ways of getting your credit card information, I think.
Yep.
But it is kind of interesting because as we've been delving into this over the last several years, looking at DNSSec, as the deeper you dive into it and the deeper you're into it, and you travel around to different conferences and you see the way that they sort of redirect you from one page to another, or when you travel to another country and perhaps there's sites that they would prefer that you not go to and how they direct things. It's amazing how much DNS is used for that. And so you start to wonder, how are they going to be able to do this if we actually succeed in deploying all this stuff? And I think that they're just going to have to come up with more creative ways of doing that. And rather than play man in the middle, it's just going to have to be an overt redirect rather than a...
Some of the solutions I personally seen being developed are using multiple VLANs and using one VLAN where you actually redirect the user to get the credit card payment, and then once that is completed, you actually move user to a production VLAN where the production VLAN has named servers that are validating against DNSSec enabled servers.
I guess you could also have a sign telling people which site to go to and have that site use HTTPS.
I think we're going to have to give people, I think the browsers are going to end up having to have a first-class feature for this is an URL to go to pay whatever needs to be paid, because lacking that feature, the hotel community has just been like, well, we'll just take every website. How you doing? So let's give them an actual first-class way to do it, because we do what you got to get connectivity. It's Skype's law.
Yeah, and I think this is probably going to have a rather interesting effect, is in areas of the world that choose to censor the internet in certain ways using DNS to do that. I think are going to be challenged in specific ways, because those answers are not going to be properly signed.
So maybe you want to wait for China to sign an answer saying China has blocked this.
That'll be for
or
them
maybe
to
not.
decide.
Maybe not. Next question. If you guys have more questions, we will be in the track 1, I guess. Track 1 Q&A room. I forget the room number, but it's 111. Apologies, thanks for reminding that. We will be able to receive more questions if you have any more questions, and we would like to get into more details of some subjects.
Alright, call me a DNS noob, but what are we actually signing? The DNS server itself or the IP address? And the man in the middle attack. You're sending that hash over the wire. What makes a hacked router send the same hash with a different IP address?
So, Dr. Lamb, would you like to?
Okay, I mean it's a chain of trust. So the signature is created using the digital signature made over the IP address record is made using the private key of that domain. So if you change the IP address, there's no way you're going to be able to validate that signature with the public half of the key associated with that domain name. I mean, I'm happy to work this out with you, but that's how you, if someone changed the IP address and gave you the same hash, well, it's not going to work. They'd have to recompute the hash, and the only way to recompute the hash would be to have that private key, which no one has except that domain name owner.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when you have DNS hosting companies, like GoDaddy, that generate, a lot of DNS and a lot of IPs. How are they going to handle that when you're changing an IP, once an hour or something like that, or DNS fallover, and there's other miscellaneous
and content
issues.
delivery networks, for example, right? They're continually changing these IP addresses. I think that's something that Dan has an example piece of software for as well. But you can just do the signatures on the fly or do something else creative. But that's a really good point. I've had people come up to me that have these systems in place that have dynamically changing things, and now they have to implement DNSSec. Government agencies, for example, large government agencies, and they desperately are looking for solutions that would allow them to, make
I think that's going to be a big problem, is changing IPs.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you guys have more questions, we'll be in the room 111. I would like to thank everyone for attending, and thank you very much for coming. We will see you in the next DEFCON.